Wow. Mind-blowing reveals and mind-smashing scientists headline what is easily my favorite episode of Severance yet. Hey everyone, it's Brent the Middleman back with another video breaking down everything we saw in Severance episode 7. I'll give a recap and then drop my big theory at the end, so be sure to stick around. This one was a doozy, so engage the trackball, type the code, then switch, type flip, type hold, because here we go. The episode starts off right where we left off, with Mark and Grainer getting to the college at the same time to meet with the woman responsible for reintegrating Petey. And if you remember, this was also the college where Mark used to teach before his wife died and he decided to get severed. I mention this because it's going to be a key part of my big theory at the end. We find out that not only did Rugabi reintegrate Petey, but she is also the one who implanted the severance chip in Mark. I went back and checked, and it's pretty obvious that she wasn't the doctor who implanted Helly's chip, so Rugabi must have already been on the run by then, doing backroom reintegration procedures on middle-aged wannabe rock gods. I loved Mark and Rugabi's whole conversation. We not only learned that she put the chip in Mark, but she dropped even more references to the Innies being like newborns. She called the term Innie infantilizing and said that since Mark's Innie is only 2 years old, that he is still just a baby. As a father, the things Rugabi was saying about bringing his Innie into the world without his permission, and he did it out of his own desire for emotional convenience, really made me think about how people have children when they aren't ready to be parents. They just do it so they have something that loves them, they don't do it for the child. But if people only waited to have kids until they were emotionally ready, then we wouldn't have politicians and reality TV stars. But just as Rugabi is telling Mark that she thinks both his Audi and Innie want to do the right thing, Grainer comes around the corner. Mark has no idea who he is, which tells us that Grainer only normally interacts with the Innies. Grainer is asking Mark if he's talking to someone and tells him he's a friend when Rugabi whacks Grainer in the brainer with a conveniently available baseball bat. She then crushes the head of security, making him the dead of security. Sorry about that, I couldn't help myself. Mark is understandably freaked out and wants to throw up, but Rugabi reminds him that he probably doesn't want to leave his DNA all over a crime scene. This world has really come a long way since OJ. He helps her move the body and gives her Petey's phone. She also gives Mark Grainer's full access card and tells him that his Innie will know what to do with it and that it can't be tracked to anyone. Also, super convenient. Mark leaves, but before he makes it to his car, he pukes all over the hallway. Something tells me this may come back to haunt him. Mark gets home and puts his clothes in a garbage bag as Rugabi instructed. I guess a company that can block your memories can do more with DNA than a Kardashian. Just as he stuffs them under the sink, Alexa comes downstairs, and it seems as if Mark had forgotten that they had baby goats earlier. He asks Alexa to leave, and he goes to throw away the clothes bag. As he's stuffing the bag in the garbage, Mrs. Selvig, aka Harmony Coble, comes out and mentions that he usually disposes of his waste in the late afternoon. I usually dispose of mine in the morning, and that's when I usually watch videos like these on my cell phone. I wonder if Miss Coble is going to check out what Mark was throwing away after she learns about Grainer. Back at the office, Milchek is making sure the new security doors work, and then gets the infographic card from behind the toilet where Innie Dillon told him he stashed it. A number of commenters pointed out that the shirts on the people on the card are blue and green, which match the colors of the badges in MDR and O&D. He then brings the card back to Optics and Design, where Burt is already there working. It was at this point I wondered if Burt was a full-time Innie, but we learn later that he is not. It looks like he is either painting or touching up a painting of Kier. My commenters have also mentioned that they think Irv is a painter, which would explain the gunk under his nails. So, if Burt is also a painter, maybe there is something to the theory that Burt and Irving, know each other on the outside too. Milchek hands Burt the card, and he knows the exact card that was missing, as he calls it the missing 7199G. More numbers and a G. We know that Burt is Burt G. I wonder if the G's are connected somehow. Or maybe it's just nothing but a G thing, baby. Burt also says that Oswald will be so delighted. Do we know an Oswald? Let me know in the comments if I'm forgetting. Milchick then says that they can now focus on the final preparations without interruptions. I don't think Milchick is referring to Burt's Innies retirement party, as the final preparations seem to be related to the cards. Are they setting up another inter-office rumble? Will the Lumon hallways run red with the blood of MDR Innies? I, for one, certainly hope so. Milchick wants to take a peek at the painting Burt is working on and seems really impressed. He tells Burt he deserves something special, and Burt is immediately worried he means another trip to the break room. So it seems like Burt got punished for bringing MDR into O&D. But Milchick assures him it's something else. Could he be talking about his retirement? Was it forced upon him? That would be super harsh, as retirement for an Innie, much like in real life, means death. What do you guys think? Milchick's busy morning continues as he hurries over to greet Dylan at the elevator. Obviously, he knew that Dylan would be freaked out after being woken up in his Audi's house and seeing that he had a kid. Dylan is told that they use something called the overtime contingency, and it's a procedure for waking up Innies on the outside. Dylan says that they were never told that they could do that, but Milchick is an excellent middle manager, and trust me, game recognizes game, and lets him know that it's only for emergencies, and that he didn't even tell Miss Coble. That last part is important later. Dylan wants to know if the boy was his son, and he wants to know his name. Milchick said the boy was supposed to count to 1,000, but he violated their agreement, and then he tells Dylan not to mention anything to his colleagues. He also tells Dylan he can rustle him up some special perks, but all of a sudden, finger traps have lost their appeal. It seems as if our Innie Dylan is all grows up. Mark gets to work and brings the keycard down with him. Milchick greets him and lets him know about the new security doors, which keep them safely situated. I love all the bureaucratic mumbo-jumbo in this show. The mood in the office is tense, to say the least. Milchick even brings Mark his black coffee and says, "Here you are, straight from the hills of Rwanda." This reference jumped out at me, as Rwanda is an African country that has been in the middle of a civil war for decades. Is this foreshadowing the upcoming inter-office battle, or just a nod by the writers to the employee rebellion that is starting up? Let me know if you think I am overthinking this. Meanwhile, Miss Coble is in her Mrs. Selvig character and is teaching Devon how to get her baby to breastfeed. Miss Coble has referred to her dead husband. Did she also have a kid? I had a crazy theory that Coble is Mark's mother, but I can't really explain why Devon doesn't know this either unless they are all severed. But she does seem to have a twisted fascination with Mark, and as we find out later, this is even more twisted than we think. Devon tells her about the rich lady who didn't remember her from the birthing center and how her husband is a senator. Devon thinks she was severed to avoid remembering childbirth. I think Devon is correct, and some more evidence is that at the birthing lodge, the woman introduced herself as Gabby, but in the news article, she goes by Gabriella. A lot of the Innies have infantilized names like Helly, who is probably Helen, and Irv, who is Irving. I did get a chance to read the supplemental booklet that was posted online, which I'll link in the description, and I'm considering doing a whole video about it, so let me know if you'd like to see that. It contained an email from a former Lumon employee named Peg, who found out her Innie goes by the name Peggy, which she says nobody had called her since she was a kid. So does Gabriella, going by Gabby, show that Devon met her quote-unquote Innie at the birthing center and her Audi at the park? I think so. Also, Coble tells Devon it's not like you have a fleet of manservants coming to take care of you. Does she know about Devon meeting the rich lady and she is baiting her into talking about it? Or does Coble consider the severed workers servants? She does get Devon to open up about Mark though, and Coble wants to know if Mark ever sees his dead wife, which ties into the surprise ending. She is definitely trying to figure out if love or feelings can transcend severance, but I can't figure out why. Is there someone she doesn't remember or someone who doesn't remember her? A baby? A husband? Is she just testing how strong the procedure is? Or does she want to try to bring her dead husband back to life? We know that Innies feel something from the numbers, but those numbers mostly tie into the four tempers, which are pretty much all negative, and love is not one of them. Coble is up to something. What do you think it is? Back on the severed floor, Irv is looking for any reason to go to O&D and wonders if Burt got punished. Dylan is pissed about them going there at all because if they hadn't, then he would never have stolen the card and never found out about his son on the outside. That's when Milchek comes in to give Helly a musical dance experience for reaching 75% completion on her Sienna project. She's actually at 73%, but he knows they need a distraction. As a fellow middle manager, I am taking meticulous notes. Helly gets to choose a musical item and music type. The types are all great, and it made me wonder if the music names tied into the four tempers as well. Helly ended up choosing Defiant Jazz, surprise, surprise, but I also noticed Body Funk, Exciting Rap, Effusive Ska, Spooky Ambient, Tearful Emo, and Wistful Pipes. Which one would you have picked? Like John Travolta after one too many lines at Studio 54, I would have gone with Reckless Disco. First of all, I think we can all agree that Milchek has moves. This guy has no problem getting innie, if you know what I mean. Second of all, this may be some of the first music that these innies have ever heard, and it definitely triggers something in them. Maybe they've heard it once or twice for 5 minutes at a time when they hit 75%, but it's definitely innie Helly's first time. And speaking of triggered, Dylan can't contain his hatred of Milchek any longer and full-on attacks him during the MDE. He even takes a chunk out of Milchek's shoulder, so forget the MDE, this guy just needs a MD. Milchek threatens to tell Coble, but Dylan remembers that Milchek didn't tell her about the emergency wake-up, so he calls his bluff by saying he would be happy to go tell her everything that happened. And then Milchek storms off like my 9-year-old when I tell him I'm not giving him any more Robux. The whole scene was shot really well, with the Defiant Jazz playing, the lights flashing, and going back and forth between Dylan's angry face and the numbers on the screen. We could feel that the music dance experience was about to come to an early conclusion. Also, after seeing that Milchek was bleeding, Irv says how he'll need a full tetanus toxoid panel. I know I said that Irv may be a painter, like Burt, but was this a hint that Irv is a doctor? Or maybe he's just a hypochondriac. The group pulls Dylan into the supply room, and he tells them all about his experience getting woken up and meeting his son. Helly realizes that they can find the controls for waking people up and wake themselves up. She could shut down her Audi for good if she can figure out how to stay as her Innie persona outside of Lumon. Mark decides this is a good time to tell them that he found Grainer's keycard in his pocket during the dance party, so now they can get into the security control room to look for the switch. A lot of things seem to be falling into place, which makes me wonder if this is all part of the experiment. PD finding Mark and leaving his phone in the map, Mark ending up with the security keycard while Cobell is out of the office and not watching, Dylan finding the card and getting woken up and seeing his son, all while they have been reading Ricken's book, with the defiant Helly now down in the mix. Is the board watching everyone on the floor scurry around like lab rats, or is it just convenient coincidences for the sake of the story? Anyway, they leave Dylan behind to distract Milchek if he comes back and head off for the control room. Irv breaks off for O&D though, so it's just Helly and Mark on their mission. The security office is awesome, great production design. There are computer monitors everywhere and then a wall of lights and buttons showing all the departments and severed people. Each person has numbers next to their names, but I'm not sure what they represent. If you have an idea, let me know. Helly flips through the security protocols manual looking for the overtime contingency page when Mark sees Cobell coming down the non-severed elevator. I tried to pause on each page as Helly flipped through the manual, and I saw the elephant access circuit, which I think has something to do with memories since an elephant never forgets. Does this mean they can access people's memories or wipe them completely? I also saw the branch transfer system, not sure what that is though, and Helly grabs what they were looking for and they get out. As Cobell is heading to her office, she runs into the PR lady, who lets her know that Grainer is dead. Cobell rightly assumes that the person who killed Grainer was the same person who reintegrated Petey. The board is still in denial about reintegration, but Cobell tells them that she has proof that it can happen, but she will only tell them in person. PR lady seems scared of Cobell, and I can't blame her. So Cobell has never met the board, even though she's a cure freak? That's strange. We learn that there will be an Egan family gala, and I for one cannot wait for that. Will we finally find out that Helly is an Egan? Cobell's line at the end is very interesting. She says, "I look forward to receiving them." Does that mean she's an Egan? That line makes it sound like they will be coming to her, right? Mark and Helly tell Dylan that now that Grainer is gone, there is nobody else in security. Mark realizes that it all could just be a deception to make them think they are being watched. That's when Helly basically drops an "I told you so" by saying, hey, it's too bad nobody ever told you guys that everything here is bullshit. She shoots, she scores. Helly is reading the sheet on the procedure for flipping severed people on and off, and they realize it's as simple as engage the trackball, type the code, then switch, type, flip, type. At least it's easier than trying to explain to my mom how to put the Apple TV app on her smart TV. They realize that someone is going to have to stay behind, and then that it is actually a two-person operation. Dylan says he can handle it since he has the strength of two men, and because he's smarter than everyone else, that's why he has twice as many finger traps. But Dylan's incredible strength alone won't do it since there are switches on both sides of the door. Dylan still insists he can do it, and yeah, I'm sure this is going to go about as well as Shaq trying to drive a Kia. We then jump over to Irv, who walks in on Burt G's retirement party. Well, his Audi is retiring. Burt G is basically a dead man walking. Milchek plays a video that Burt's Audi made, and it's hilariously awful. He says he is going to miss everyone, even though he has no idea who they are, or their names, or even their physical characteristics, but he feels like he enjoyed being with them. Did anyone else cringe when Audi Burt told Innie Burt that he sees him and then looked the wrong direction? That moment basically summed up the whole thing. Irv is rightfully pissed about everything and wonders out loud if they were being punished for defying the guidance of the founder Kier. Milchek says the Audi is retiring and it will happen to Irv one day too. Dang, that's harsh. The way he said it was definitely as a threat. And was this the special surprise Milchek said he had for Burt earlier? It's a great way to take care of a problem employee, just kill them without actually killing them. Definitely a moral dilemma. I love Irv's reply to Milchek though. He says, "You smug motherfucker," knocking the smile off Milchek's face. "You're not severed. You walk out of here with your memories. You carry them home with you every night. No one can rip them away from you, snuff them out like they never existed, like you never existed." Milchek is about to send Irv back to MDR, but Burt speaks up and gets him to stay as long as he doesn't speak up and bring shame on himself and the founder. Then Milchek, with a little smile, says, "Now let's all say goodbye to Burt." Damn. And even the song, Good Morning Yesterday by Paul Anka, all about trying to remember the past, but time makes it harder and harder. After the strong connection they had, Irv and Burt end their time together with just a firm handshake that would make Kier proud. I felt really bad for Irv here and was pumped when he tells the MDR crew that he's ready to burn this place to the ground. Irv was the final piece to the rebellion. Helly was in from day one, Petey got Mark in on it, Dylan was pushed by meeting his son, and now Irv has Burt torn from him. Was all this done intentionally by Lumon? Are the unsevered managers all in on it, or are they being observed too? Or is it just a coincidence that they have all been pushed to the brink at the same time? Finally, we end with Audi Mark getting drunk at home, checking his phone for news on the murder at the college when Alexa comes over. Wisely, she decides she has seen one red flag too many when a drunken Mark tears up a photo of his ex-wife Emma right in front of her. After she leaves, Mark picks up the pieces and starts to repair the photo, listing all the things he loved about his wife. The way he lists them sounds a lot like how Miss Casey lists off all the positive things about their Audis when they are in their wellness sessions. We quickly learn that this is not a coincidence because Mark's wife Emma looks exactly like Miss Casey. What? Is Miss Casey actually Emma and she's been severed? Is Miss Casey a robot version of Emma designed to test if Severance works perfectly? Obviously, Cobell is in on it, as we saw she even took Emma's candle and put it in there for Mark's wellness session. And Miss Casey's outfit and chair match the same color pattern as the candle. And in this session, Innie Mark sculpted the tree that Emma's car ran into. So it did trigger something in Innie Mark, but only on a subconscious level. So, what does all this mean? My big theory, Mark has something to do with Severance because of his work at the college. That, or he stumbled on something there that led to his wife being killed, or at least he was led to believe that she died so that he would volunteer to be severed. It could be that he was severed even before, and the Audi Mark we see isn't even the real Mark. In the supplemental piece, which I'll link in the description and I'll probably do a separate video about, the former Lumon employee was a bus driver whose bus crashed, and while it was crashed, an ad for Lumon and Severance came across the radio, as if they knew she would be susceptible at that very moment. Was Emma's death staged in order to get Mark to be severed? Is this how everyone else ends up being severed too, or is Mark special? Cobell doesn't seem to be taking a special interest in anyone else, so this tells me that there was a lot more going on here. Alright, as always, tell me what you think is going on in the comments. Do you think I'm onto something? Was Mark involved with the severance procedure before? I also want to thank everyone for all the support. The channel is nearing 5,000 subscribers, and I can't tell you how much that means to this middle-aged middle manager in a midlife crisis. So if you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and a comment and even subscribing, as it really helps me out, and I want to be able to keep making content for you guys. I'll be back soon with more videos on Severance, and the next video will be another breakdown of the epic show From. And once again, I'm Brent the Middleman, and I'll see you next time.